next year, so it'll be Wednesday morning meetings, not
Monday?
Yeah, not Monday, it'll be Wednesdays.
It's all about the same.
Yeah.
On Monday.
Good morning. Great. Thank you.
Good time.
Always, I use everything. Cheat sheet on that, yeah. I love it, thank you. Appreciate that. Hi. Yeah, I told said I was going to be running late. Walking right in the door, it's 9:28.
Yeah.
You guys have a good weekend?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Oh, yeah.
It was great. I got to see our grandbaby.
Oh, good.
Yeah, baby girl. So went to Detroit. And, yeah. Nice. Yeah.
First?
Yeah.
Oh, congrats to you.
Thank you. Yeah. We didn't want to leave. Oh, my husband is over the moon. Just, he's a dad girl anyway, so we're through. Yeah, it's just whatever.
Wrapped around her finger already.
Oh yeah, playing us like a bass fiddle.
That's great. That's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
So,
amazing.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you guys?
How are you?
One Terry, one
Hey,
Joey,
how are you?
one Tony, one Stephen. Tony. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending this morning. Let's rise to the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I want to welcome our newest board member, Mr. Terry McCafferty, to his first meeting today. Terry, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.
Look forward to working with you. I'm going to note that all members are present here today, and we'll move to approve the minutes from the July 13th, 2022 board meeting. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Acknowledgement. I'll move to acknowledge the Secretary of State's directives and advisories, Directive 2022-41, preparation for the statewide mailing of absentee ballot applications for the November 8th, 2022 general election. Directive 2022-42, designation of districts for State Board of Education. And advisory 2022-03, House Bill 377, and change to election worker exclusion from PRS. And if there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment about these directives?
I just had a question about Directive 2022-41. So I know that the Secretary of State's going to mail absentee ballot apps twice. And the first time I just wasn't clear when that was, and I may have just missed it. I know the second's going to be sent in early October. Do we know when the first one is going to be sent?
The first one will be after Labor Day, within the first 1 to 2 weeks of September. That's when that'll go out. And then you're correct. And actually, he's going to send the third one. He's going to do that first one, which obviously in the middle of September falls before the close of registration, right after the close of registration on October, I think 11th. Then he'll send out the second one. And then he'll send out one more. It'll be pretty close to Election Day, but that will get just a few more people, I guess, who through moving or through the registration process, take care of that. But so we're looking forward to that first one in September because it's countywide, which is we always get a good response to that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And an update that on Lois and Robert Elze voting investigation update. There is a report of that investigation. Mr. Pilati, do you want to tee that up or?
Actually,
you gonna do that?
Deputy Director Gallagher is going to
Okay.
see this one across the finish line.
So the board has completed its investigation and of Lois and Robert. And we have a recommendation, but a brief recap. In July of this year, the Board of Elections was contacted by Channel 5 reporter regarding allegations of a deceased voter, Lois Elsley, casting ballots in elections during 2018 and 2020. From media reports, we learned that her skeletal remains of Lois Elsley were found in a storage unit in May. The medical examiner estimates she may have been dead for 10 years. Lois Elsley's son, Robert Elsley, was found dead inside his home in March of this year. It is believed that Robert Elsley may have been continuing to collect his deceased mother's Social Security and retirement benefits. We found that Lois had registered to vote in August of 1972, and Robert Elsley registered in July of 71. They were the only two people registered at the 9793 Manafort Drive address in Parma Heights. Robert Elsley's registration was canceled in June of this year after notice was received from the Ohio Department of Health. Cuyahoga County property records show that Lois Elsley purchased a home in Parma Heights in 1975 and is still the property owner of record. No one else was registered at the Parma Heights address. Since 2008, Robert and Lois have identical voting records, both voting in the same primary and general elections, both voting by mail. We have no records of either one of them signing a petition. Boards of election staff examined and compared the available vote by mail records and voter registration cards for both Lois and her son Robert. The identification and date of births on their voter registration applications and vote by mail envelopes matched their registration cards. The signatures also reasonably matched their registration cards. So our conclusion and recommendation is that based on the information provided, the Board of Election staff properly processed the vote by mail applications and vote by mail ballots for both Richard and Lois. From media reports, it appears that Mr. Elsley may have been utilizing his mother's personal information to improperly deposit her Social Security retirement benefits into his bank account. The CCBOE believes that he may have engaged in similar activity to unlawfully cast her vote by mail ballots. We would have wanted to question the affected parties, but unfortunately this opportunity has been evaded by their respective deaths. Robert Elsley registration was canceled in June. Lois Elsley's voter registration will be canceled when notice is officially received by the Ohio Department of Health. So in accordance with Ohio Revised Code 3501.11, we had a duty to investigate this matter. We have taken this as far as we can, pertinent to Ohio Revised Code. The director and deputy director recommend forwarding this information to the county prosecutor's office and notifying the Secretary of State's Elections Council of the incident and corresponding referral.
We have received notice of his passing, right, and canceled his registration, but not her.
Right, we received his in June. We have not yet received hers, but when we do, we will
Cancel it. So, and I think talking to Director Pilati, she's flagged as provisional.
She is.
So,
Right, in this past August election, we had her voted marked as must vote provisional.
I'm assuming
By
that was,
by error, but for some reason, somebody went to try to vote in her place, it would have been stopped. Yeah.
you don't know if anybody tried.
No, we did.
No, okay, great. Any questions for, well, I'm going to make a motion to follow staff's recommendation, refer the matter to the prosecutor's office to, determine exactly how to proceed. Although I believe staff's conclusion is appropriate, there'll probably be nothing to pursue if there's a second.
Second.
Are there questions or comments from Mr. Gallagher or staff? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Ms. Edwards, good morning.
Good morning.
And we're on to the determination of validity of provisional ballots and the authorization to count those provisional ballots from the August 2nd, 2022 primary election. Ms. Edwards?
Okay, you should have before you the provisional validation summary report. A total of 646 provisional ballots were issued during the August 2nd, 2022 primary election, of which 590 were confirmed to be valid provisional ballots, while 56 were rejected for various deficiencies during the verification process. Staff verified the provisionals in accordance with Chapter 8 Provisional Voting of the Secretary of State's Election Official Manual and Directives 2019-04, 2020-08, and 2020-09. We found 590 provisionals that met the requirements for open. This number includes 5 wrong precincts correct locations, which will be remade by the ballot department. We also had 2 ballots that were made valid due to the 8 pre-exception. The 8 pre-exception allows any Cuyahoga County voter that was canceled as a result of the 2011, 2013, 2015 supplemental process to be reactivated as long as they did not register in another county after their 2011, 2013, 2015, and 2019 cancellations. Staff verified 53 in-county, out-of-county provisionals and 37 provisionals that were for voters who were previously registered in Cuyahoga County and did not vote here. Before we get to staff's recommendation, I would like to briefly review with you reasons why the voters may have voted provisionally. This information is on the pie chart, and it indicates why people did in fact vote provisionally. Also, on your summary report, you have it broken down by rejection code as to what the reasons were for the ballots not being valid. Please note that we do make some assumptions as to the reason a person voted provisionally. And it should be noted that some of the voters had multiple reasons. However, they will appear in only one category, or they will be pushed to the C other category. The registration department is recommending that the 590 ballot provisional ballots from the August 2nd, 2020 primary election be approved for open.
Are there any questions for Ms. Edwards?
I just have one. Betty, for the one voter that were rejecting the provision because they voted in the wrong county, any details about that? Did they move and then somehow, we're just wondering how they vote in the wrong county?
On that particular one, instead of putting their current address in Cuyahoga County, for their current address, they put it down as another county. We can't count it because we don't know if the person did in fact move to Cuyahoga or not.
Okay, I will move to approve the validity of the provisional ballots and authorizations to count those provisional ballots for the August 2nd, 2022 primary election is set forth on our agenda and is explained by Ms. Edwards. If there's a second.
Second.
Any other questions for Ms. Edwards? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. I'll move to acknowledge the resignation of from elected office of Mr. Richard Pignatello, the City of Seven Hills Law Director, and Gail Williams-Byer, the South Euclid Municipal Court Judge. If there's a second.
Second, you're gonna ballot.
Yeah.
Oh, I missed.
Just-
Okay. Well, yes, I'll back up to that in a second. All those, any other question or comment about that motion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you for pointing that out, Ms. Chappelle. And I move to approve the preliminary approval of the ballot order for November 8th, 2022 general election. If there's a second.
Second.
Are there questions or comments for staff? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And on to, I move to acknowledgement of candidates and issue withdrawals. as set forth in our agenda. That would be State Representative District 18 write-in, Vincent Roseman, a Democrat, and withdrawals of issues for the November 8th, 2022 general election. The Cleveland Cuyahoga County Port Authority ordinances 2022-13 and 2022-18, as well as local option Euclid 3C, Laura J's Martini and Soul Bistro. If there's a second, any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And on to certifications. Mr. Lawler, good morning.
Good morning. I'm Lawler, Canada Petition Services. Before we ask you to certify the issues and the candidates, we have 3 petitions and questions that we would like you to review. And all 3 of them, of course, we are recommending that you do not certify them to the ballot.
Okay, so we're going to proceed with first James A. Williams.
James A. Williams is a candidate for the Cleveland Heights Council unexpired term 12/31/23. Number of required signatures is 232. He only filed 234. He only has 1 valid signature, so the petition is short by 231. Candidate has been notified of the board meeting. I cannot believe he's here. We've asked him to withdraw. We did indicate to him in an email what our concern that 137 of the signatures were not genuine signatures, and 65 of them were not registered the address stated on the petition. At this time, we're not asking you to review that piece of it. We will do, we've talked to the director about this. We'll do an internal discussion, invite the gentleman in to discuss how this came about. We do have a short email from him indicating that he got the DMV, and most of them were green card, but it was kind of incoherent. So then we'll get back to you later on with our recommendations. But at this point, we just ask that you not certify to the ballot.
Okay, and thank you for pointing that out, Mr. Lawler. The first question I had, I've never seen someone submit just 1 valid signature and 200. You got to wonder if something's going on. So I will make a motion to follow staff's recommendation and not certify the petitions for James A. Williams, Cleveland Heights Council. If there's a second.
Second.
Further questions for Mr. Lawler? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. On to Cleveland Ward 14, Precinct I, Platform Brewing.
Mr. Chairman, that petition required 50 valid signatures. He submitted 82, only 42 were valid, so he was short by 8. Again, if you've been invited to the meeting to attend, you might not heard from him. Actually, not to say thank you.
Okay, is anybody here for Platform Brewery? Okay, thank you. I'll move to follow staff's recommendation and not certify the petitions for the Cleveland Ward 14 Precinct 1 Platform Brewery. If there's a second.
Second.
Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And now we're on to Broadview Heights Ward 1 Precinct V, Broadview Brewing Company. I do note that Mr. and Mrs. DeLotte are in attendance today and will be heard. I know you signed for public comment, but obviously you'd like to be heard on this issue. And I know, speaking on behalf of all the board members, they want to hear from you also before we make a decision on this matter. We will hear from Mr. Lawler about the staff's recommendation, and then, of course, you and well, whoever wants to speak on the DeLotte's behalf. Okay? All right. Thank you.
So, Mr. Chairman of the board, I give you a handout. Everything is included in your packet, but free is a discussion at this point. I thought we used just to show this to you. When a petition is filed for a local option number 5R, which is a specific location, we are required to send to liquor control a copy of the petition to determine the status of the permit. And as a result, so that's the petition. Second page is the document that we get back from the liquor control. So on their petition, which is the first document, question number 2, which is Sunday sales, they indicated they're a holder of an A1A and an A1C permit. If you go to the sheet, you will see that they are indeed an A1A and A1C permit holder. But you also notice at the very top on their email, it says, "Good afternoon, Broadview Brewing Company is a holder of an A1 and A1C permit." Notice that an A1A and an A1C permits only give Sunday sales of beer if ballot passes. Currently, they can't even sell beer on Sunday. If they want a full Sunday privileges of mixed wine beverages and spirits that they indicated in the question wording, they need to apply for a D6. D6 is Sunday sales of wine and mixed beverages and spirits. So after we received that, we contacted the owner. He indicated that the petition was insufficient because, one, they're not an applicant for it, for the D6. Number two, they don't list it on the petition as being an applicant for the D6. The next morning, I received an email from the owner indicating that they now are indeed now a D6 holder. But I had informed her that under the law, on your petition, you have to say that you're a holder of an applicant for it. The revised code is very clear where it says 4301.33, paragraph B3A, requires a petition to list the type of liquor permit applied for and a holder of. So even though they went back retroactively and got a D6 liquor permit, their Ohio revised code specifically requires that the petition itself state all the permits that they're holding and whatever permits they're applying for. We can't, what you see on that local option is exactly what we put on the ballot. That is the one instance where we don't change anything. So we can't go back and put an applicant for a D6 on the ballot. When the petition is circulated to the petitioners, it's indicating that they're going to get, they're asking to get wine and mixed beverages and spirits liquor, but you can't get that if you don't have a D6. So that's why we're asking you not to certify the election, because the petition itself is missing the crucial language, the required language, that they're an applicant for a D6.
Okay, just a couple questions that I want to hear from Mr. or Mrs. Delap or whoever. I see that, who put the X mark here on one? You know,
They did.
okay.
Because originally it circulated the first question, one is weekdays, two is Sundays, and apparently they must have already weekdays. So rather than put it on the ballot and assuming risk everybody know, they would lose all their permits for the week.
So in number two should have said holder, I mean, what staff's position is, number two, it should say holder of an A1 and an A1C and a D6.
And an applicant for a D6.
And applicant. And I see that this, it says 8/8 on this notice, it says 8/8/22 D6.
Yes. So
Is that after the petitions were circulated?
yes.
Okay.
So we submitted the document. It was given back to me on 8/10, same day I sent it to them. The next morning, excuse me, I gave it to them on 8/9. They give it back to me on 8/9. 8/10, we get the revised one, which is that third sheet of paper that I just gave you. And you will see now that they are the applicant for a D6. But it's dated 8/8.
Mr. and Mrs.
So one other question for you. Was it backdated? What was backdated?
So it's our understanding that the liquor control backdated the deed, according to the owner. She told me that when they're talking to liquor control that morning, they did the application on the phone and they backdated it to 8/8, the day before they actually filed the board of elections.
But the petitions weren't circulated with the D6 information on it. Is that the
They were circulated without the D6.
right?
That's correct.
Who wants to speak on this, Mr. Lawler? Why don't you come up here, okay? Thank you, Mr. Lawler. And why don't you just stay up here too? I'm sure there'll be some other questions and sure there'll be some questions from Mr. Mustard to our legal department. Could you please state your name, where you live, ma'am?
Yes, this is Janice Steve. I live in Broadview Heights.
What's your address?
474 Norwich Drive.
Steve, could you swear her in? We're going to take testimony from you, okay?
You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you.
So you kind of, I'm sure you've seen or heard what the staff's position is.
Yes.
And what would you like us to know, Mr. Lawler?
So yes, we did make an error on the noting of the D6 application on the petition. But the petition does clearly say that this petition is for Sunday sales of beer, wine, and spirituous liquors at this location in Broadview Heights. So our 50 plus, which I think we had 69 or 70 people sign this petition, all of those people were well aware of what they were signing and why they were signing it. Now, if I put D6 on there or A1A or A1C, pretty confident there's not one person on that list that would have known the difference between one or the other. But nevertheless, they did sign and they did know what they were signing. I will go address the issue about backdating of the application. Our liquor license starts October 1st every year, and this is we're just completing our first year of business. This time last year, we applied for our liquor license. We applied for D6. We were called and told, you got your liquor license, but sorry, you're in a precinct where it is still dry on Sundays. You cannot have your D6 license. You will need to petition. The County Board of Elections will need to get that petition. You'll need to get it on the ballot, and then you can proceed with your D6 license. Therefore, we did not apply for another D6 license because we knew we couldn't have one. We needed to petition first. So it was a little confusing to us. We didn't get or ask for any legal advice on that. Potentially we could have gotten that cleared up, but I got to tell you, it seemed pretty clear to us that we couldn't have a D6 license until we petitioned and got on the ballot and had it voted in for yes. And potentially we would hope that we would get that yes ballot. Again, some ladies, we are just trying to do some business on Sundays here in our precinct and hope that we can get this petition passed so we can be on the ballot. By the way, we were initially told, we brought our petition here on Monday. We were told on Tuesday, here is the language that will go on the ballot. You've been approved because our signatures were accepted. The language on the ballot has nothing to say about an A1A, A1C, or D6. It just says Sunday sales of spirits, liquors, beer, and wine at this location.
So what's the difference between 1 and 2 here? I mean, shall the sale of beer, it looks like it's identical.
Yeah, we thought so too. That's why we filled out both sections of that petition. It's
Well, there's a Sunday.
One is weekdays, two is Sunday.
to a Sunday. So we filled out both parts, covered ourselves for both parts. They didn't need to fill out number 1, but again, permitted for the sale on Sunday is right on there. And that is what our petitioners signed.
So go ahead, Mr. McCaffrey, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. So the A1A and A1C, what does that mean during the week?
That
You
we
already
can
have
sell- yeah, that
liquor
we can sell our
under
the beer we
those? I don't
produce
know
as
the-
well as liquor.
I don't know all the permitting numbers.
Yeah, and you have to have those 2 licenses in order to even apply for a D6 license. Obviously,
Okay.
one is you cannot just have a D6 license. You have to have those 2 in order to apply for Sunday sales.
Okay. Thank you.
So when you say you applied for a D6 license, what does that mean? You still have to get vote.
It's a 2-page
Well, hear me
document.
out.
Yeah,
You still have to get voter approval?
still have to get voter approval.
So that you can just call up and say, can I have a D6?
And
They
that's it.
apparently gave it to you,
Here's the form, fill it out, email it to me, which you keyed it in.
and that's what you did.
Yes.
Do you have to pay a fee to do that?
Yeah, $100 check is as an application.
So it's fairly simple to get the D6 permit,
Process started,
Started.
application started.
applicant, but you still need the vote.
Correct.
And it's the liquor control's position that you got to have that D6 before you circulate the petition.
I don't know the answer to that. I think, I assume that came from the county, not from the liquor control board.
So Mr. Musson, I mean, we have an issue
Jeff,
here.
can I ask a quick
Oh,
question?
please, go ahead.
Because you triggered something. Right, you're saying it needed to say application for D6, not having D6. I guess that's stuck in my head. Okay, so it's not that necessarily she has the D6, it's that she's trying to get it, which would then, and it needs, you're saying that Ohio law needs to have it on that line?
Required to have that on.
Okay, I guess, so then that's the question then. And her position is it does indicate in the first couple sentences of the item 2 that this is for Sunday sales, and is that sufficient notice to those signing? I guess that's the question. So sorry, jumping in.
No.
I had to clear it up in my head.
I do have a copy of the screenshot where it now shows that it is applied for and unpaid. The check is in the mail. She probably has it. They probably have it already. I don't know if you have a copy of that particular street.
I don't question that you've applied or when you applied or the fact. So if you go to, and I'm going to ask Mr. Musson a question here. So if you go down to 2, it says, if you see, read it below, insert all that applies. Prepare on, and an applicant for a D6 liquor permit. That's what you should put down there, because that's what you were, and you didn't put that down there. Right.
Correct.
You did put the holder of an A1 or A1C.
It's in tiny print down there.
Right. You did put that down, but you didn't put the other. And then you did put beer, wine, and mixed beverages. So my question to Mr. Musson is, is that substantial compliance? Is it, got to be absolute compliance? What's
Yeah, that's the question.
our attorney's position?
As a general proposition, Ohio law requires strict compliance with Ohio election laws. And the Supreme Court in Brubaker versus Lawrence County, it was recently decided in 2022 in the context of a liquor control question that the word shall is construed as mandatory unless there is a clear and unequivocal legislative intent that a different construction applies. So if we go to the statute, 4301.333 in B, the petition shall contain all of the following. And in sub 3A, it specifies that the type of each liquor permit applied for by the applicant or held by the liquor permit holder, as described in 4303.11 through 4303.183, including a description of the type of beer and intoxicating liquor sales authorized by each permit as provided in those sections. So I think they satisfied the second part of it. They're seeking Sunday sales, but they didn't specify the permit. And the board just needs to determine whether or not that is sufficient to strictly comply with the code.
Well, the description, it appears, is not enough.
Right.
Because it actually says the type of each liquor permit applied for or held by the liquor permit should also be, it seems
The code,
harsh. but-
code says both.
Yeah.
The specific permits that they hold and are applying for, and a description of the type of alcohol.
Did you find any cases directly on point with this kind of question?
Not directly on point with this specific
Situation.
aspect. There was that Brubaker, there's a mandatory affidavit that has to accompany the petition. And the failure to submit that affidavit, I think it's generally notifying other establishments within the area that they're applying for the wet.
But is there dictum in that, in the opinion that suggests that there has to be strict compliance there?
Correct, unless there's something in the statute that would allow for substantial compliance, and I don't see anything in the statute that would give that sort of leeway.
So let me just, and maybe Ms. DeLapp or Mr. Lawler can answer this. So the email from the liquor control says currently they can't even sell beer and wine on Sunday, even though they're an A1 and A1C. So if this were on the ballot as an A1 and A1C, could we put it on as that and they could still serve beer? You follow me?
Not intoxicating liquor or wine, right? But beer, my understanding, yes, if they wet the precinct, the A would entitle them to Sunday sales of beer.
Here, not wine.
Or spirituous liquor.
Go ahead, Mr. DeLapp. You need to come up here, sir.
The license that we have is actually allows us to sell our own beer on Sundays. The beer that we produce, but not a guest tap, not another type of beer.
So I'm sorry. So you can sell beer?
Sell only my beer, but I cannot sell any other guest taps, wine, or liquor on Sundays.
But our issue isn't really what is sold or what can be sold. Our issue is whether the petition conforms to the statute, right?
Right, that's the issue.
That's our issue.
Mr. DeLapp, did you want to be here? You go ahead,
I'm
Ms.
sorry. Are we looking at revised code? It's like 4301.333.
Correct.
And in that one, it says, is it mandating? It shall, just to be clear on the language. And then it lists the items, and then it's like item 3, according to what was provided to me. That would be where this would need to be listed.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I guess that's I think the question.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if you have the same.
We have a copy of the statute as an attachment to the material.
Yeah, on page 2 of that printout, it's highlighted there as 3A. And
But the pertinent language is on page 1. It says the petition shall contain, and then it enumerates all, 1, 2, and the 3A that you're talking about.
Correct, yeah, it does use the word shall, and there is nothing else that I can see in that statute that would afford substantial compliance rather than strict.
Mr. Delap, did you have something to add? Wait, you have to come to the mic. Please state your name.
Terry Delap.
And your address?
474 Norwich Drive, Broadview Heights, Ohio.
Okay, Stephen, would you please swear him in? Thank you.
Appreciate it. You solemnly swear that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
So I just wanted to step in. I think Janice answered the question for you. Our permit, those two permits, one is a brewery permit, allowing us to brew beer. The second one is the ability to sell liquor Monday through Saturday. So we've been doing that. So we can sell our beer, whatever we manufacture in house, we can sell on Sunday. And what we're looking for is to sell wine and spirits liquors on Sunday. And no ifs, ands, or buts, that when we circulated the petition, we did not put the license number or designation on that permit. Our feeling was that the petition clearly stated that it was Sunday liquor sales. We got no advice from anybody else as to make sure that that had to be on there. Frankly, what we're asking for at this point is for your consideration to allow this to go through on the ballot without the D6 designation on that line. This would postpone the ability of us to sell liquor on Sunday to next year to May. So we'll have to go through the certification process with the petitions again. We'll have to go petition everybody that we ask again for signatures. And frankly, we're just trying to make money. It's an issue here where we're all benefiting by the fact that we can sell spirits liquors on Sunday. Everybody gets more tax dollars. Everybody gets income. And it was, in our opinion, a very slight error that we didn't put the D6 designation on that petition. And for that, we apologize for, but we ask for your consideration to move this forward so we can move on with this. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Anything, Mark, in legislative intent? I mean, to make that the kind of, what we're being asked to do, is there, would that be viewed as an abuse of discretion on our part? It seems to be a stretch of the statutory language, but I guess just trying to find out, we get dinged. It sounds like it would more likely than not be an abuse of discretion, but I don't know.
Right. And yeah, just looking at the text of the statute, it's hard to devise any other intent other than what the revised code said. And it says each type of liquor permit applied for by the applicant or held by the liquor permit holder as described in those sections, including a description of the type of beer or intoxicating liquor sales authorized by each permit as provided in those sections. So it's highly
I'm surprised the
technical.
Liquor Control Commission wouldn't have given some guidance on, their position probably is, well, we don't give guidance on what the petition should say, but.
We did not get any direction from them when we were told that we were dry for Sundays this time last year. No one said you need to reapply for the D6, then petition for the ballot, for the vote, and then you can sell. It was, you need to petition.
Right.
So it was sort of circular logic to think that we would apply for a license we knew we couldn't get in order to get a petition to get the license we knew we couldn't get. It seemed rather illogical to us. So therefore we didn't apply for it, and therefore we didn't put it down because we were like, well, we're not applying yet until we get the vote to say yes. Why would we apply?
Actually, you give a persuasive argument that, if the description is there, who the heck's gonna even know what the D6 stands for? But I don't know that it's there for a reason, apparently, and it doesn't say it's mandatory. It's not precatory language, so it's tough.
Our liquor license starts October 1st for the full calendar year, and to have it in by then made sense to us. But again, since we were turned down, it was right around this time last year, we didn't reapply. We thought we needed to go through this process first. Therefore, we didn't write D6 on it Didn't have an active application.
So when you circulated these petitions, that was in sometime in August, early August for the most part,
Yeah,
July.
within July, August.
So you were not the business was not an applicant for a D6 at that time.
Correct.
And so to the extent that you weren't an applicant, I guess it's correct. You can't put that down.
Yeah.
Right.
Which sort of explained, I mean, they went back and backdated it to include it. Yeah.
Before they back,
Can I get a comment?
please.
So it's our understanding of liquor law is as long as is the application portion of it, as long as you're an applicant before you actually certify this liquor option, we can accept it.
We can accept.
We've had 2 or 3 that put down that they were an applicant for D6. We were notified by liquor control that they were not. We notified the property owner and they went and got their D6s as an application. And then we put them through and run the list today. So the sole issue with this one is they got the D6 and applicant for it. It's just missing applicant for D6 on the petition, which is part of the ballot language, which we have to give to the voters.
So first and foremost, thank you, Mr. Lawler. I appreciate that. And I understand, Mrs. Lawler, you understand why we're hearing this, because our staff this is their job. They're the gatekeepers for us.
Right.
And they're, like, we've read it, we've talked to our council, we've talked to our bosses. We don't think it should be on here, despite the fact that maybe they want it or not. It isn't their decision. I understand where they're coming from, and I think you understand that too. They reached out to you. To me, what this is an issue of substantial compliance versus strict compliance. Because it needs to give notice to people you're going to, like, we want to sell beer, wine, and liquor on Sundays, and you know that.
Which is exactly what we did.
Right. Well, and that notice up there says we should, that's clearly what you're saying. But the fact is that, Mr. Musson correctly points out too, it says shall put a D6 down there. Do I think anybody knows what a D6? I certainly didn't know until now. And so that's the dilemma I have, because there isn't someone protesting it, so to speak. Our staff is just doing their job at this point. And we need to give some direction. So those are my initial thoughts on this. I don't know how any of the other board members' thoughts are too, because frankly, I think they did make substantial compliance. That if someone signed this, they saw what the LAPs were trying to do in that neighborhood, and I don't think anybody's going to come up and complain about that.
I'm struggling because, it's substantial compliance. I get it, but it sounds like strict compliance is required. And, the law is what it is. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. And maybe it should say and or, and there should be some accommodation. I feel awful because, you're in business and doing a good thing, to try to bring tax revenue and all that. All the arguments you make are very, very persuasive. But unfortunately, I don't feel comfortable when the statute is clear and going against the recommendation also. We've gone against the recommendation of staff before, but I think the statute's pretty clear, and I think strict compliance is required, not substantial. So for those reasons, I would need to make a motion to not certify this to the ballot.
So there's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second her motion. I agree. The way the application is, I think the voters were aware. The problem is, and that's why we were asking our legal counsel this question, we have a duty to follow the law, and if it's strict compliance, and that's why I know there's a lot with these codes and numbers, and it's very confusing, but I do know that it's a strictly sort of regulated thing anyway. And if you're, and if it says shall, and we don't really have the wiggle room to make the discretionary call, I join in with you for that reason.
So I just have a question. Then we have a motion and a second, so it's open for discussion here. When I'm looking at the email back from the liquor control, they're simply saying, hey, if they want to be able to sell spirits and mixed beverages on Sundays, they need to apply for a D6, which they hadn't done. We shared that with them, then the LAPs went and applied for a D6.
Right.
So as far as the liquor control is concerned, I guess that's what their concern was, right?
Right.
They're not focused on the petition, right? They just with the application. Any other question or comment for Mr. or Mrs. DeLapp?
Well, again, we certainly do appreciate the letter of the law. No ifs, ands, or buts. We understand that. We just felt that we made every effort possible to make this work. And needless to say, we're gonna be back in May. So that alleviates November, December, January, February, March, April, and May. That puts a little damper on our business. There's been no ifs, ands, or buts about that. Mr. Boyd, I would tell you that I appreciate the fact that he offered, when we come back, let us help you step through this to make sure you get it right. What I disagree with is why they didn't have me first time around. Why I didn't get the advice the first time when I came.
We have a,
It's not your job.
Right.
I understand that
We
100%.
need to be careful on giving legal advice too.
Right,
You know,
I
we're not your
understand.
attorneys, but yeah. Understood.
And as you're careful to take legal advice,
Yeah.
I understand that you're somewhat obligated to take the advice of your legal counsel that's here today.
Yeah.
And found some obscure thing that makes us not work there.
I don't know if I call it obscure. I think shall legally is standard. So if something says shall, that means we don't really have discretion. That's kind of a hard and fast rule. So,
Okay.
thank
Fair
you.
enough.
so are you open on Sundays, Mr.
Yes.
Blount? But you can only sell your brewed beer. Right.
That's correct.
Right. Well, any other question or comment for Mr. and Mrs. DeLapp or for Mr. Lawler?
Thanks for coming down and
I'm
for,
going to take a
Thank you.
vote on this matter. I very reluctantly will support Ms. Chappelle's motion. I understand the reasoning for it, but it's unfortunate. But,
I agree.
I believe the law is clear and unfortunately. So all those in favor of the motion by Ms. Chappelle signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed, same motion. Motion passes.
We'll see you in May.
Good luck, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Lawler. We've gone through those three matters. We are on to certification, am I correct, sir?
Correct.
Certified candidates, certification of candidates. I will move to certify the candidates. Now, I'm going to comment first before this. Certify the candidates for the November 8th general election, all running as independent and nonpartisan. If there's a second.
second,
So we saw an article, I did at least, and I think the staff sent it out to us about Ms. Davis running
Yeah.
as an independent. Some potentially may challenge that.
Yes.
Us taking action here today, did that impact the ability of someone to challenge any one of these individuals? Not at all.
Protest deadline is August 26th.
August.
We've done this before. I've already written the summary, and the summary said that she was not certified because of that we're doing it today. The next time we'll just say we've certified it. It's just for informational.
And
purposes.
if someone protests it, then we'll hear protest. If someone doesn't, then she'd be certified. Right, okay. I'm going to wait
This
for
is
Ms.
just for
Chappelle's.
signatures, right? This is just to say they have the signatures needed.
It's valid. It's a position is valid. Is that correct?
Okay. Well, yeah, because I think with the independent filing, I think we do have a hearing.
I believe we're
Yes, we
scheduling
do.
one.
All right.
So
So, yeah, so I guess his question is, if we certifying it just means at this point, what's in front of us is good based on what we know, but that since we have till the 26th, we will address it at the meeting.
right.
Okay,
It's my understanding that just look at the face of the petition.
okay,
Passing on
that's my
the
question.
face of it looks
Okay,
valid.
all right, thank you for
So
clarifying.
two things that we look at when someone files an independent petition is based on the old advisory, which you'll get a copy of it certified.
Right,
If they're not a member of the central committee or the executive committee of the party. That's the only two things we've ever looked at.
And then one other thing is, had they voted in a
Oh, yes.
partisan primary after the date, after they filed the petition for our board of elections?
Do all three of those.
Okay, I'm going to wait for Ms. Chappelle to come back here. I know she had to step out just for a second, so.
And I guess if I can, just to build upon,
yeah,
so we have received a protest against this. The clerks have sent out notice to the protester and protestee of that. It is set for August 22nd at the next meeting. I believe it's this upcoming Wednesday. I believe it's the 20. I forget what this Wednesday's date is. 17th is when Ms. Davis has to submit her position on it, at which time we'll
okay,
share that with the person who filed the protest, and it'll be part then of the information that's provided to the board in preparation for Monday's meeting. And like Brett said, the 26th is actually the deadline, so Ms. Davis or anyone else could receive more protests against them because that is. the deadline.
Oh, okay. Are we gonna? All right, so then we're not dealing with her on the 22nd.
Oh, we are.
Oh, okay, all right,
We will do that.
all right.
So
I see what you're saying.
there's a motion, I made a motion to certify the candidates. Was there a second?
I seconded it.
Right.
I'm sorry, I step out 1 second. So it's my understanding that her petitions were, the number of signatures were sufficient, and the issue about her affiliation is going to be heard next week.
On the 22nd, correct.
Yes,
And by certifying her as a candidate doesn't preclude anybody from
Right.
post.
but, and then the deadline is the 26th, after that, so,
Got it.
for everybody.
All right, just wanted to make sure.
Okay.
Terrific. Any other question or comment? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to certify candidates, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And I will move to certify the issues for the November 8th, 2022 general election. If there's a second.
Second.
Any question or comment about the issues to appear on the November ballot? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Lawler. Okay, I will move to approve to appoint not less than 2 precinct election officials for each precinct pursuant to the revised code 350122 for the November 8th, 2022 general election. This is something we do every election. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously, and I'll move to approve the preliminary authorization for the allocation of voting booths for the November 8th, 2022 general election. Allocation quantities are based on the social distancing and room size per polling location. A total of 4,554 voting booths will be allocated, 819 DS200 precinct scanners, 288 ADA automark voting units, and 796 electronic poll books. If there's a second.
Second.
Thank you. Any question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I move to approve to amend the current contract with Clarac Inc., doing business as Enterprise Rent-A-Car, to rent various cargo vans and minivans to conduct the elections for the period April 1st, 2021 to May 5th, 2023, to add the unplanned August 2022 special primary election van rentals with additional amount of $29,254.50 for a total amended contract amount not to exceed $227,650.50. If there's a second.
Second.
Any question or comment from Ms. Susi? Ms. Susi, do you have any comment?
Nope. Unless you have any questions. I don't have any questions.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
I do have one question. I'm sorry, and it sort of goes to, both of these items that we're going to discuss for Mark. So we don't have an issue because, that somehow these vendors are being competitively advantaged because we are amending the agreement for the reason that, hey, who knew? I mean, that's just sort of unplanned in terms of the additional cost resulting from the additional primary. I mean, normally we would, we don't just automatically amend contracts if there's, we can, but I'm just wondering, is there any issue? And it may be that some of these, I think, may have been sole source, or the only vendors we get to respond anyways. But I'm just, before we vote, I'm just always, whenever an agency makes a change to a contract that was bid, I'm always a little, just want to make sure that we aren't going to get some vendor down the line saying, well, wait a minute, had I known, but I would have changed my bid and could have been in the mix. The had I known maybe is the operative part because none of us knew about this, but I just want to make sure we're in good stead by making these changes.
Yes, when we originally bid these, they were requirement contracts, undefined quantities.
Okay.
But we did put a not to exceed amount in there just to put a break on it and to certify, have a set amount of funds to allocate to the contract. This is revising that not to exceed amount. So they were always obligated to perform our requirements. And when they bid it, they didn't know the exact quantity that we would actually need. So I think we're in good stead on the competitive bidding standpoint, but everybody was bidding on the same terms, even though we are increasing the amount. It's just an estimate that was provided.
Thank you.
Okay, any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I move to approve to amend the current contract with Berman Midvits, doing business as Berman Moving and Storage for the delivery and return of the voting equipment for all elections occurring from May 16th, 2021 through December 31st, 2022, and to add for the unplanned August 2nd, 2022 special primary election for an additional amount of $49,945.50 for a total amended contract not to exceed $150,744. There's a second.
Second.
Any question or comment?
I have just a question. When did Berman become Midfits, or has that always been, and then we just used the doing business name? We've always referred to them as Berman. I was just wondering if that was that a recent change, or?
I don't believe so. I think that their legal name has always been.
Oh, it is, okay.
I think
Right.
the owner involved made sure when we did the most recent contract, she wanted the name
To be the true corporate, the real corporate name. Okay.
I would say within the last year.
Oh, was it the last year?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna say, we've been doing business with them a long time as Berman.
Yeah.
I just wondered whether or not. Okay.
Terrific.
Yeah.
Any other question or comment? All right, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And I'll move to approve the vouchers is set forth here. It's the expense for our postage, if there's a second.
Second.
Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, Miss Susie, you're not done yet. Please come up here. Okay.
Not my last meeting.
Yeah, we won't accept your resignation. Robin, there you are with the camera. That's what we needed. Sure, why don't you come on up here, all my board members, move the seats out there. And
You're a flight risk.
Thank you. Thank you.
let's move
Nice
this
work,
chair out of
buddy.
here.
Here we go.
Move that chair out of here. So on behalf of my colleagues here and the directors and everybody in this room, the senior management team and all the employees of the County Board of Elections, we want to recognize and salute you, Kendra, for your 3 years of service to this organization. You certainly added benefit and value to our organization operation. Every aspect of this technology company, and that's what we are, involved your shop and the people you work with. You've been a leader in the fiscal department and with this agency. Your colleagues, the people you work with, your managers, the people that you manage, all appreciate working with you. Your kindness, your thoughtfulness is deeply appreciated. Your example of hard work, it exemplifies and is shared with your workers when you do that. We, as members of the board, our leadership team here and all our employees want to congratulate you and wish you only continued success and good health in the years to come. Congratulations.
All right, thank you.
Good luck.
Excuse me, Kendra, you're not done yet. Back up. Sorry, I forgot. We are also here, your resignation, in fact, has brought to the attention of the Secretary of State, Frank LaRose. Okay? So on behalf of Mr. LaRose is Henry Curtis, a former colleague of ours, who is now working for Mr. Rose as his senior representative in minority outreach. He's here to present you with a resolution.
Kendra, congratulations to you on a job well done on behalf of Secretary LaRose and the state of Ohio. We want to present you with this commendation with much appreciation for your years of service to the citizens of Cuyahoga County. God bless you on your future endeavors.
Now you're done. Henry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Henry. Okay, on to the approval for the personnel agenda. I will reluctantly move to accept the resignation of Ms. Kendra Zusi, if there's a second.
Second.
Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
And is there any need to go into executive session? Are we gonna, as quickly as you resign, Ms. Zusi, they've recommended somebody to replace you, so.
I'm sorry.
Is there a need to go into executive session?
No, I just wonder, are we gonna do the second part of the personnel?
Yes,
Or
I-
we did that already?
No, I'm gonna do that
Oh, I'm
now. I'm gonna
sorry.
move to, give Ms. Susie a wrong.
Yes, absolutely. My bad.
But
Sorry about that.
that vacancy won't last long, okay? So I will move to approve Shanquita Walker to replace Ms. Susie in fiscal services as its manager. If there's a second.
Second.
Terrific. We have her resume, which is quite extensive. Her experience in county government is quite extensive. So Your shoes weren't easy to fill, Kendra, but it appears that we're going to have some new leadership there, and we're going to be fortunate to be able to replace you with the same competence and abilities that you've had over that department. So, if there are any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And when is Ms. Walker beginning? Do you have an idea?
On the 29th.
29th, okay. Terrific. And next is new business. I will, Mr. Perlotti on the CCBOE petition protocols.
Yes, I just, a few meetings ago, surrounding a filing deadline for the crazy things that, the different ones that we've had for this year. The question did arise regarding what happens when individuals do come past the deadline or late for the deadline regarding petition protocols. And so we have not accepted those petitions for many years. And the question was asked by the board, well, why? Take a look and see. So we did go back and we tried to look to see why are we doing what we do. And Tony and myself, along with Mark and Brent and Peter, try to look through historically why have we done what we've done, and then we wanted to reach out to the Secretary of State's office. And in that back review, we had did not have it written because oftentimes we did not get written guidance from Secretary of State's office. But this was back when John Huston was the Secretary of State, and legal counsel there had informed us or advised us that we shouldn't take petitions past 4:30. And one reason would be that if they were to file, you would have to collect the corresponding filing fees for those persons, and it's not necessarily being forthcoming with them, and that you take the money knowing that in fact they wouldn't make the ballot. And at that point, that attorney said, the deadline is a deadline, and just turned those folks away. Said you can't take it, stamp it and give it back, because you can't give it back. Once you take it, it's the board's document, so you couldn't do that either.
Okay.
So we kind of took our practice and put it into this document regarding petitions and no pre-checks and the official time, location, and what we would do. And we shared this with current Secretary of State, Rose is his legal counsel, who reviewed the document and found that the document is accurate, correct, doesn't violate the election official manual or statute. In fact, and our intent is to hand this out to individuals when they get a petition, and they actually said what kind of they're doing was a good thing in creating this document, which they don't have any concerns or issues with, in providing that when we hand out packets. So it's pretty clear to individuals when they do come back to us exactly what's to happen. So it's so this is something where we wanted to come back, share with you how we got to where we are, what we are going to do, and then uniformly, it is published on our website now, where candidates go with petition information, so they can see it there. And when they come here, it will be physically handed to them. And so I just wanted to kind of bring that back up, see if there's any questions regarding this.
I do have a question.
Mhm.
So is this already posted, or this document is not posted yet, or is it posted on the website?
I don't know if they did put it up, if they were gonna do it. after
Yeah,
this
the
board
only,
meeting.
I mean, I think it's a great thing to do. I mean, but when we sort of codify our practice, when we deviate from it, we have a potential concern. That's my only issue. Just like whenever we have a voter, a candidate, or somebody says, something doesn't go right. Well, why didn't they tell me? Or they told me to do such and such. My only concern was just the language that says we will provide candidates who pull the petitions with general information. How are we going to document that we're doing that? And then does that get us into, I mean, I know we probably do that. I'm just, when I see language like that, I just get a little concerned that, what if something happens and okay.
And we
So maybe
can-
we have a fix
and we
already
can
for that,
fix that.
because that would be, I thought this is a great document. That's my only concern, is how do we document that we did give general information? To me, we don't bootstrap ourselves. We say, hey, it's posted on the website. We encourage, I just feel like when we say we will do this, if we don't do it and something is a problem, and we always get people saying, well, why didn't they tell me? Or they told me to do this. I'm just saying, that's my only concern here. Maybe you have already figured this, there's a solution for it.
So as you do with people file petitions, there's a laundry list of things that they receive that they sign for.
Okay.
We were, I was just talking about this last week, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna list out what we're giving them, and then sign for it.
Okay, so that's the general information you're talking.
When we
General,
give petition rules, we give the information on ethics, we give the campaign finance.
but is that all identified in the checklist?
A little bit.
Okay, so maybe we should be
Yeah,
saying,
yeah.
we give them a checklist
Yeah.
with the information. I don't know, I don't want to create a problem. I just don't want us to down the line say, gee, we should have tweaked that language, or maybe, just don't want it to
Maybe
cause a
list it
problem.
out, or it will be acknowledged by the candidate or something.
Yeah, something.
I
Just a question and a potential concern. Maybe it's not a big issue, but I just would hate it to come back and bite us. When you try to do good things, sometimes it comes back to bite you. That's all.
And we already do something, we will modify it, and this is different, but as an example, when we were actually talking about the Broadview Brewing, this is like a checklist that we create, and that had to do with that particular petition, where we list out a checklist, check what they get, they sign, they date, so we have a record.
We say that the anything they put the license they hold in any application.
On that, no.
See, that's my point.
Yeah.
Right.
That's my point.
But you know what? We did.
Okay,
yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm just raising it as a potential issue that, I just don't want it to come back. We want to be helpful to everybody. There's just no question. That is a role. That's our role. We should be. I just don't want us to create a problem for ourselves.
I think,
Okay.
to your point,
We'll figure it
no good deed goes unpunished.
That's true.
And no matter what we do, we will try to have this comprehensive.
Okay,
But there'll be
that's
that
fine.
one, and then we'll modify it. But you're absolutely correct. No matter how hard we try, there's still.
But if you have a way of tracking it, and if they're signing an acknowledgement, then that would do it then perhaps.
But to your point, like maybe which is acknowledged by the candidate, because then you don't want that loose language to be like, oh, they said they would give me advice and they didn't, or give me, to your.
The general information didn't include the particular issue that caused me to have this problem.
Okay.
I just, just think about it. I'm not
Yeah.
trying to create a big issue about it, but I'm just concerned.
Well, no, because you're absolutely correct, because at some point, someone will be at that podium and we'll be discussing that, and we want to be able to, as staff and then as a board, to say, well, look, you did sign this, you did receive this.
Yeah, what's general information? What does
Yeah.
that mean? Basic information.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. McCary.
Yeah, I had a couple of thoughts on the weekend with the brewery case in particular that kind of brought this issue along. And I thought to myself that probably most people running for office have support from other people, whether it's a party or, And then I figured, well, you got charter amendments, you got all those things, you got legal departments in all these cities that are. So I felt bad kind of in this particular case. It was confusing to me. I think it was confusing to all of us how to properly complete, get there with, applying for a deed when you don't even have the permit. So there it's, I agree with you, where we can get. So,
Do we need action on this?
I don't,
Adopt the policy?
I don't believe so. It's more of a protocol, but,
Well, let the record reflect that it's been shared with the board and that the board supports having it posted. That the minutes can reflect that. Is that sufficient, Mr. Russell? All right, how about an update in Berea?
sure. Because we love elections around here. Right?
We do.
We sure do. The Berea recall election. So some petitioners in the city did file petitions with the clerk in Berea. We brought them over. It's regarding the recall for Berea Ward 1 Councilman Leon, I'm not sure if it's Dozer or Dozier, correct pronunciation. There was sufficient signatures. We gave that back to the clerk. Per their charter, they serve the individual, which they have with notice of that. There is 5 days for that person to resign. The service has happened today. I believe at 4:30 is the deadline for the council person to resign. And for the city, they believe that he has no intention of resigning. In anticipation of that, Berea City Council has scheduled a meeting for 7:30 tonight, which if the councilman does not resign, they will take this matter up at that meeting, and they will go ahead and they will select an election date. This Board of Elections staff, we have recommended or asked that if they could schedule that for September 13th. That is at the end of the window that the charter allows for. I can't remember if it was 30 to 40 or 30 to 45-day window. So that takes us, keeps it on a Tuesday, and it happens to be at the end of that window. At this point, the city has not indicated that they would not move forward with our ask for the 13th. So hopefully that will happen. If that does, then we'll go ahead and get notice tomorrow from the clerk that council went ahead and passed, and then the election will be on the 13th. Ward 1 does consist of 2 precincts. So if that happens, then staff immediately will go ahead to begin to prepare for the election. And at next Monday's meeting on the 22nd, something on the agenda will be us this board acknowledging the date of the election. This one, we don't get to pick, we just acknowledge it. With that, or following tonight and getting the information tomorrow, again, we'll get the ballot created, laid out. We will, even though it's small, we go through all our steps, we'll test equipment and make sure that everything will, the ballots will be able to be read. With that, we anticipate next Wednesday, next Wednesday, the 24th, would be when we would be able to open vote by mail and in-person voting. That we would have a ballot fully proofed and equipment tested. Also, so currently these 2 precincts fall within 2 polling locations in the city of Berea. We now proactively have reached out to see availability. One of those locations is the library in Berea. They have a conflict. So we will have to move those voters to a new location, which would be the rec center. And we would send notice out to those individuals when it's confirmed. And that's actually something where we would want to keep those voters there for November also. So not bounce them back. It makes sense actually for them to stay at the rec center because of the proximity of where they are, where the rec center is. So that's kind of what's going on with Berea. I will let you know what happens with council. And again, we will go ahead and start to prepare immediately with the ballot once we have that confirmation.
So this can be managed by our staff,
Yes.
the poll workers.
Yes, we will. As far as, so like a couple of contracts today, we won't have Vernon stick anything out. We'll take stuff out in a van, pick it back up. We may bring in a couple poll workers just to, again, keep them fresh, but we will have staff that will be out there throughout the day. It's kind of a good training opportunity for them to see what's going on. So we'll kind of rotate some staff through there. Midwest will print the ballots, but the vote by mail ballots, what we'll do is we'll have them print a stack of ballots for us, and we'll go ahead and we'll stuff and make the packets ourselves for that versus, because we anticipate very low participation, and so we'll handle that.
Any other questions for Mr. Pilati?
Did we see something about an East Cleveland recount or
Yeah.
recall?
So, yep.
What's the story with that?
So I can speak to that. Mayor King, citizens did circulate petitions for that. There were sufficient signatures for a recall election for Mayor King. They are also our charter community, and per their charter, served notice. That notice was served, and he has 5 days in which to resign. I believe that 5th day is this upcoming Thursday. And then, unlike Berea, the Board of Elections, we set the date for that. That is a different window. I believe that one is 60 to 90 days. And luckily, that would fall on November 8th.
Yeah.
So we would go ahead and place that on November 8th ballot, which would be nice since we're already conducting an election. If
it moves forward.
if it, yeah,
If it
so,
moves on.
right. And typically, we haven't seen anyone resign from these recall elections, but you never know. But that's how we would handle that.
All right, any other questions, new business? Okay, I do have one, Elia isn't here, Mike, is she? Oh, hi, Elia. Yes, it's been brought to my attention on behalf of the board. I want to take a few minutes to recognize Elia Ragos. She has been recently received an award for her work in the community. If you'd come up, Elia. Each year, the Young Latino Network presents this award to an individual that has demonstrated an unwavering commitment to building an equitable democracy and ensuring that the Latinx community has a voice in every election. She has been designated this year's winner of the Noche de Guayabera, which is Democracy Builder Award. It was given to her by the Young Latino Network. When she arrived here back in 2017, after leaving Puerto Rico, after Hurricane Maria, she has immersed herself into the Latino community and as well as the entire community of Cuyahoga County as an outreach worker. She brings with her more than 18 years of legal experience, an unwavering drive towards building an equitable democracy. Lily attends any and every event to register voters and educate new members to her community about our upcoming elections. We can all be proud of the work that Delia is doing in the community, and I'm happy that she's been honored by making a difference in our community, and you certainly add value and benefit to not only the outreach department and Mr. West's operation, but to this entire board, and I want to congratulate you.
Let's stand by the chairman really quick. I want to spread the news around.
We'll take it when we can.
That's right.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Karen, we take pictures. Karen, we take pictures all around.
All right, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thanks, terrific.
Photograph this many times for a while.
Okay, I don't think there's any other business, but I do want to suggest maybe, I know Ina Joe's got a hard stop next Monday at 12:30, you said?
Yes,
We've got a
I
big decision to make about voting equipment. It
Yes.
appears we may have a protest hearing. Can we begin at 9 o'clock? Will that work for staff? I know, and our board members, can we start at 9? Just
do. Thank you.
fine with everybody?
Yeah.
Okay. If you could get that posted, Mary, and skipped it, we're gonna have a 9 o'clock start time. Mark, does that work? Okay.
Yes.
All right. That's the only protest you anticipate right now.
Yes.
Okay, because that, and then of course, where we have to certify,
Right.
right? And then the voting equipment, obviously.
Right, so the big things that we are aware of now, yes, the certification of the August 2nd election, this protest that was filed against Ms. Davis, new voting equipment, and there will be, like I said, the Berea, and we'll probably just some of the things we'll do, look now, it's proofing of the ballots and those types of things, but those are all kind of routine.
I was able to push my other meeting back a little bit, but I appreciate that.
I will keep us moving, and then finally, the vendors. I mean, I know staff will be providing us with some summaries, recommendations shortly, so our board will have time to review. But the vendors at least will be put on notice that we're having this discussion. I don't expect them to attend, but if we wanted to reach them, they'll be able to call them or ask them questions.
I had thought that, we would make them aware of the date. We publish our meetings electronically, can provide them with a link so they can make themselves available for questions. And we can also have phone numbers if we have.
Okay, all right, great. That's all.
For some, they're able to participate by Zoom too, right? Or no?
They can. I mean,
They can,
we
but
can't meet.
No, I know that we
Right.
can't, but there is a Zoom.
I don't think there's anything prohibiting them from calling in or, no, right?
But we're voting though, next meeting, correct?
That is our intention.
All right, any other question or comment? There is no other public comment, correct, Mary? Okay, thank you all. Have a wonderful week, and we'll see you next Monday.
Thank you.
I'll move to adjourn. All in
Second.
favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are we?
Are we adjourning or
We
recessing?
recessed, are we recessed?
Are we adjourning or recessing?
Right, we've got to certify next week.
Yeah, so we need to,
All right.
we need to recess.
Recant that. I'll recant that, Mary. I'm gonna move to recess.
Friendly amendment.
There we go, there we go.
Friendly amendment of
Second by-
language.
Second to recess.
All in favor?
I-
Okay, Joe.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, I was always forget that. I always. Jeff always helped me.
So we have to recess.
That's a new one between me.
Not